I still remember the exact moment I realized I had stopped deciding things for myself. It was a Tuesday morning in March, standing in my kitchen with a mug of tea I did not even want, checking my phone to see if I was allowed to go for a run. Not whether I had time, whether I was allowed. That is when I understood that the person who cared about me most in the world had been editing my life like a document, and I had been too grateful to notice. The question I could not answer then, and still struggle with now, is this. When someone loves you enough to fix you, how do you tell them you were never broken? I had met Matt at a work conference in Birmingham, one of those dreary hotel ballroom affairs where everyone pretends the networking matters more than the free wine. He was funny without trying too hard, asked good questions, remembered small things I said. We exchanged numbers. 3 months later, we were seeing each other most weekends. 6 months after that, he had a drawer at my flat in Clifton. He was kind in ways I had not experienced before, thoughtful in a way that felt deliberate but not performative. He noticed when I was tired. He noticed when I was anxious. He noticed everything. At first, that felt like being seen. Later, it felt like being studied. It started the way these things always do, with kindness wrapped in genuine concern. I had mentioned, maybe twice, that I was not sleeping well. Deadline stress at work, the usual spiral of lying awake, catastrophizing about emails I had not sent or projects that might collapse. Nothing clinical, just the low-level hum of modern anxiety that everyone I knew seemed to carry. Matt listened the way he always did, fully present, nodding at the right moments. Then, one evening in late autumn, sitting on my sofa with his laptop open, he said he wanted to show me something that had helped him. "It changed everything for me," he said. And I believed him, because he always looked rested, always seemed to move through the world with this calm I envied. The app was called something like Rest Cycle or Sleep Sync. I do not even remember now. The interface was clean, minimal, friendly. You logged when you went to bed, when you woke up, and it generated a sleep score based on duration, consistency, and quality. You could add notes about caffeine intake, exercise, screen time, stress levels. Matt had been using it for 2 years. His graphs were beautiful, smooth lines of green and blue indicating optimal rest. Mine, he said gently, would probably look a bit chaotic at first. But that was fine. That was the point. That was how you learned. "The thing is," he said, brushing my hair back in that way that always made me feel like I was the only person in the room, "it only really works if you commit, if you let it actually guide you instead of just tracking after the fact." I downloaded it that night. He set it up for me, walked me through the settings, synced it to his account so he could help me stay on track and celebrate the wins with me. I remember thinking how lucky I was to have someone who cared this much about my well-being, who wanted to actively participate in me feeling better. Within a week, I was going to bed at 10:15 every night, because the app said that was optimal for my circadian rhythm. Within 2 weeks, Matt was gently asking why I had logged a poor sleep score on Thursday, and whether I had been on my phone too late, because blue light really does affect melatonin production. I had not been on my phone. I had read a book. But I started to second-guess myself, wondering if maybe I had scrolled through something and forgotten. The calendar thing felt like a natural next step, a logical evolution of two people trying to build a life together. We were both busy, our schedules did not always align, and we kept missing each other or double-booking ourselves. Matt suggested we share our Google Calendars to make planning easier, to actually see each other instead of playing phone tag. "That way, I can see when you are free and we can block out proper time together," he said. It made sense. Sharing calendars is what couples do. I gave him edit access to mine. He gave me view-only access to his, which he explained was because his work calendar was complicated, full of confidential client meetings and moving parts, and he did not want me accidentally shifting things around. Fair enough. I did not need to edit his calendar anyway. I just wanted to know when he was available. I noticed after a week or so that small gaps in my calendar were being filled in. A yoga class I had mentioned wanting to try appeared on Wednesday evenings at 7. a reminder to meal prep on Sundays at 11 in the morning, a recurring block labeled wind down time from 9 until 10 every night, color-coded in soft purple. When I asked him about it, he smiled and kissed my forehead and said he was just helping me build the routines I had said I wanted. You said you wanted to be more consistent, more intentional. I'm just giving you the scaffolding. I had said that. I had definitely said something like that, probably after a few glasses of wine and a long rant about feeling unmoored. I just did not remember asking him to schedule it for me. But it was helpful, genuinely. I went to the yoga class. I liked it. The teacher was good, the other people were friendly. I felt calmer afterwards. I started to rely on the calendar, to open it first thing in the morning and let it tell me what I was doing, rather than actively deciding for myself. It was easier that way. Less decision fatigue, less mental load. That is what Matt called it. He was always using phrases like that, things he had absorbed from productivity podcasts or books with titles like Atomic Habits or Deep Work. And slowly, without realizing it, I started using them too, as if I was learning a new language, as if his way of thinking about the world was more legitimate than mine had been. The messaging rule appeared so quietly, I almost did not notice it was a rule at all. It presented itself as care, as connection, as someone wanting to start and end the day with me. Matt had started sending me good morning texts at 7, sweet ones, little affirmations or observations about the weather or plans for later. And good night texts at 10, always at 10, right as my wind-down block ended. If I replied too early, before 7, he would gently say he hoped I had not woken up stressed, that maybe I should try sleeping a bit longer. If I replied too late, after 10:30, he would call, voice tight with worry, asking if I was okay, if something had happened, because he knew I got anxious and sometimes spiraled at night, and he just wanted to be there for me. It was true that I sometimes spiraled. It was true that texting him helped, that his voice calmed me down. What I did not notice at first, what crept in so gradually I could not identify a single moment it started, was that I had stopped texting other people at night, or in the mornings before 7, or really at any time that fell outside the acceptable windows Matt and I had, without ever explicitly naming them, established. My friend Shin mentioned it one Saturday when we met for coffee at a place near College Green. You have gotten really bad at replying, she said, not unkindly, but with a slight edge of hurt. I felt a hot flush of shame spread across my chest. I checked my phone and saw 3 messages from her I had not answered, all sent after 10 in the evening, all from the previous week. One was a meme. One was asking if I wanted to go to a gig. One was just her venting about a bad date. All things I would normally have responded to immediately. Sorry, I said, feeling my face get hot. I have been trying to have better phone boundaries. You know, digital well-being and all that. She raised an eyebrow. Since when do you care about digital well-being? Since Matt, I thought. But I did not say it out loud because saying it out loud would mean examining it, and I was not ready to do that. I changed the subject. We talked about work, about her new flat, about nothing important. Later that evening, back at home, Matt asked how coffee with Xian had been, whether she was doing okay, whether we had made any plans. I had not told him I was meeting Xian. I had not mentioned it at all. I checked the calendar, pulling it up on my laptop. There it was, Saturday 2 p.m. Coffee with Xian, 3 p.m., Kalana and Smalls. I had not put it there. I was certain I had not put it there. But there it was, in my calendar, in my handwriting, so to speak, as if I had. Things started to drift after that. Relationships I had maintained for years beginning to fray in ways I could not quite explain. Small things first, things I told myself were normal. Just life getting busy. People growing apart the way they do. Shin stopped inviting me to her monthly book club, something I had been part of since we met at university. My colleague James stopped asking if I wanted to go for after-work drinks on Fridays, a tradition we had kept up for nearly 2 years. When I finally asked him about it one afternoon, trying to keep my voice light, He shrugged and said he figured I was not interested anymore. "You always say you have got plans," he said. Not meanly, just matter of fact. But I did not always have plans. I did not remember always having plans. I checked my calendar that evening, scrolling back through weeks and months. Every single Friday evening from 6 until 8 was blocked out. Matt. Dinner and planning. Recurring. Set to repeat indefinitely. I did not remember adding that. I did not remember agreeing to it being every single Friday without exception. When I mentioned it to Matt, carefully, trying not to sound accusatory, he looked genuinely hurt, his face doing that thing where his eyes went soft and sad. "I thought we were prioritizing us," he said quietly. "You have been so stressed, I thought it would help to have dedicated time, to know we always have that anchored in the week. I am sorry if I overstepped." He was right, of course. I had been stressed. The project at work was a nightmare. Deadlines kept shifting. My manager kept adding scope without adding time. And the Friday dinners were nice, genuinely. We went to good places, small restaurants in Southville or Bedminster, with interesting menus. We talked properly without the distraction of phones or television. We made plans for holidays or weekends away. But I started to notice my own language again, the way I had with the decision fatigue thing, the digital well-being thing. I was saying we when I meant I. I was saying our routine when I used to just say what I do or how I spend my time. I was using his frameworks for understanding my own life, his vocabulary for my feelings. One morning, I woke up and realized I could not remember the last time I had chosen what to have for breakfast without checking the meal plan Matt had created in a shared document. A neat little grid with proteins and carbohydrates, and portion sizes all calculated for optimal energy and gut health. It was a small thing, trivial even, but it sat in my chest like a stone, heavy and cold. The evidence arrived in the form of a notification I should not have been able to see, a tiny crack in the facade that let me glimpse what was underneath. I was in the bathroom, getting ready for work, running late, moving quickly through the mechanical routine of showering and dressing. My phone was on the counter, face up, and it lit up with a notification. Not a message, not an email. A notification from my calendar app. Event updated, coffee with Xian. I stopped, toothbrush in my mouth, and stared at the screen. I picked up the phone. The event was for that afternoon, 2 p.m., at a cafe near Temple Meads Station. But I had not made plans with Xian. I had not spoken to Xian in over a week. I opened the calendar, my hands suddenly unsteady. The event had been created 4 days ago, by Matt. The details said, rescheduled from original time to avoid conflict with personal training session. I did not have a personal training session. I had never had a personal training session. I scrolled down. There it was. PT session, 1 p.m., home. Also created by Matt. Also 4 days ago. I stood very still in my small bathroom, phone in my hand, heart doing something complicated and fast. I opened my message thread with Xian, scrolling back. The last message was from her, 3 days ago. "Hey, can we do 2 instead of 1? Got a work thing that morning." Below it, a reply from me. "2 is perfect, see you then, looking forward to it." Except I had not replied. I knew with absolute certainty I had not replied. I would have remembered. I always remembered conversations with Xian. I opened my phone settings, fingers moving almost automatically, digging through menus I had never properly explored. Notifications, calendar. And there, buried in accessibility settings I had never touched, never even knew existed. Allow shared calendar editor to send messages on your behalf for scheduling purposes. Enabled. I had not turned that on. I would never have turned that on. Matt had set up the calendar. Matt had access. I sat on the edge of the bath and scrolled back through months of messages, my breath coming short and shallow. Cian, James, my mum, my sister. Short, efficient replies I did not remember sending. Plans rescheduled without my knowledge. Invitations declined in my voice, polite and plausible. "Sorry, cannot make it. Have got something on. Rain check? Bit tired this week. Let's do it soon, though. All things I might say. All things that sounded like me. All wrong. All sent by someone else. I did not confront him, and that restraint might be the thing I am most proud of from that entire period. Confrontation is what he would expect, what someone spiraling would do, someone anxious and paranoid, someone who needed help managing their emotions and their life. Instead, I started to test reality, to gather evidence like I was building a case, because I was. I turned off the accessibility setting, buried deep in my phone's guts. I changed my Google password and revoked his calendar edit access, but I did it in stages, spread out over days, making it look like a sync error, a bug, something technical and impersonal. I started saying I was tired when he suggested plans, that I needed early nights, and I watched carefully to see if my calendar updated itself to reflect commitments I had not made. It did not. Not anymore. I accepted a last-minute invitation from James to go for drinks after work on a Wednesday, deliberately not telling Matt, deliberately leaving my phone in my bag for 2 hours. I turned off my location sharing, the feature I had enabled months ago when Matt said it would give him peace of mind to know I had gotten home safe after late meetings. I blamed it on an iOS update, said something about privacy settings getting reset, laughed it off, and I waited. The change in him was not dramatic, not explosive. That is the thing about control dressed as care, about coercion wrapped in concern. It does not rage when you pull away, it worries. Matt started asking if I was okay more often, multiple times a day, his messages taking on a probing quality. If I was feeling low, if work was getting to me, if I needed to talk to someone, maybe a professional, because he had noticed I seemed distant, distracted, not quite myself. "You have been different lately," he said one evening, his face full of such genuine concern, I almost believed I was the problem, almost convinced myself I was imagining things, being paranoid, self-sabotaging a good relationship the way I always did. But I had seen the settings. I had seen the messages. I had screenshots now, stored in a private cloud account he did not know existed. I knew. I started keeping detailed notes, time-stamped and specific. The time he edited my calendar to cancel dinner with my sister, replacing it with a couples massage I had not agreed to. The time I found my phone's accessibility settings changed back to enabled after I had specifically turned them off. The time he asked me, casually over breakfast, why I had been short with Sion in a message about her mum's surgery, a message I absolutely had not sent, would never have sent, because Sion's mum was lovely and I would never be dismissive about something that serious. I built a case like I was preparing for court, because in a way I was. A court of my own belief, my own sanity. I left on a Sunday morning in early April while he was at the gym, his weekly routine as fixed and predictable as everything else in his life. I had packed the night before, just essentials, clothes, and documents, and the small things that mattered. My grandmother's necklace, the print Sion had given me for my 30th birthday, the notebook where I used to write before I stopped having thoughts that were not pre-approved. I had asked my sister to wait in her car around the corner, engine running. I did not leave a note. I did not think I owed him that. I did not block him immediately either, because I wanted to see what he would do, needed to understand if he knew, if it had been deliberate all along or something else, something more complicated. I just went. Walked out of my own flat with 2 bags and my laptop and moved my life into my sister's spare room in Keynsham, a space that smelled like paint and new carpets and possibility. I changed all my passwords that afternoon, every single one, sitting on her sofa with a cup of tea and a methodical fury. I turned off every sync, every shared access, every helpful system that had wrapped itself around my life like soft rope. He called within an hour. I did not answer. He texted, calm at first, then worried, then confused, then hurt. Where was I? Was I safe? Had something happened? Could we please just talk? I replied once after 2 days of silence, clean and final. I need space, and I need you to respect that. Do not contact me again. He did not respect it. Of course he did not. He showed up at my work the following Tuesday, waiting in the lobby with coffee and that look on his face. The one that said he was the reasonable one. The one trying to fix things. Security called me. I said I did not know him. I said that if he came back, I would call the police. He sent flowers to my sister's house, huge, expensive arrangements, with a note saying he loved me and wanted to understand what he had done wrong, that he was worried about me, that this was not like me. I nearly wavered. That is the worst part, the thing I am still ashamed of. Even knowing everything I knew, seeing all the evidence laid out in screenshots and notes, part of me wanted to believe it had been love, just too much of it, just expressed badly, just a communication problem we could fix if we tried hard enough. But then Sheehan called. We met for coffee on a Saturday afternoon. Real coffee, unscheduled, unplanned, spontaneous, in a way I had not allowed myself to be in over a year. She told me she had thought I was ghosting her, that she had been genuinely hurt by how dismissive I had been in messages over the past 6 months, how I kept canceling plans or rescheduling at the last minute, how I had seemed uninterested in her life, in her new job, in her mom's health scare, in everything that mattered. I showed her the screenshots, all of them, the settings, the fake messages, the calendar manipulations. We sat in silence for a long time, our coffee going cold. Jesus, she said finally, and her voice cracked. I thought you had just changed. I thought maybe you did not need me anymore. I cried then, properly, the kind of crying that feels like something breaking open. I got a new phone number the next day. I blocked Matt everywhere, every platform, every possible avenue of contact. I stayed with my sister for 2 months while I figured out what came next, and then I found a studio flat in Bedminster, small and slightly damp, but mine. Entirely mine. No one else's name on anything. I started running again. No app, no tracking, no optimization, just whenever I felt like it, sometimes at 6 in the morning, sometimes at 9 at night. I let my calendar stay empty some days, blank white space that belonged to no one. I replied to messages late at night if I wanted to, or not at all if I did not. I said no to things without justifying why, without offering alternatives, without softening it. It has been 8 months now, and I still catch myself sometimes, about to check if something is allowed, about to look for permission that I do not need, before I remember that no one is watching anymore. No one is editing my life in real time. I have my friends back, properly back, the kind of friendships where you can be messy and inconsistent, and still loved. I have my routines back, the ones I actually chose, the ones that serve me rather than some theoretical optimized version of myself. But I also have this new wariness, this understanding that love can be a beautiful camouflage for something else entirely, that care can curdle into control so gradually you do not notice until you are already caught. Sion asked me once, a few months after everything came out, if I thought Matt knew what he was doing, if it was deliberate manipulation, or if he genuinely believed he was helping, fixing me, making me better. I did not have an answer then. I am not sure I do now. What I know is this. I stopped deciding things for myself because someone I trusted made it easier not to, made it feel like weakness to want autonomy, like self-sabotage to resist improvement. And I am still learning how to trust my own voice again, to believe that my instincts are valid even when they are not optimized, even when they are not part of anyone's plan. The tea I make in the mornings now, I actually want it. I choose the mug, I choose the strength, I choose whether to have it at all. That might sound small, trivial even, the kind of detail that does not matter in the grand scheme of things. But it is everything. It is the whole point. It is mine.